Hi Flosstube, it's Karen, recovering monogamous stitcher. I'm back with Flosstube number 34. Today is Friday, December 22nd, 2023. I want to welcome back my subscribers and longtime viewers. I'm so happy to have an opportunity to communicate with you again. And if you're new and you've just discovered my channel, welcome. I hope you see something you like. I'd love to know how you found me, if it popped up randomly in your feed or if you heard someone recommend me. In any case, you're very welcome here, and I hope you will like and subscribe. Let's see. Before I get into okay, now here, I've done a different thing for my notes. I have my notes on my laptop, so I'm looking down to read my notes. I discovered when I do it in a little notebook where I handwrite it, I forget things, I put arrows, and I still forget things. So I'm hoping this will be an improvement. So I'm looking down to see the computer screen, and I look up like this when I want to see what, I want to focus on what you're seeing on the camera. So sorry, but I have trifocals, and I have to do that. And to me, it's annoying. I hope it doesn't annoy you. And before I get into my stitching, I have a reminder to you about Stitchy Sasanak. I always want to call her Sassy. StitchySasanak.etsy.com. She is a project bag maker. She makes wonderful project bags, and she offers a 20% discount to viewers of my channel if you use the discount code RecoveringStitcher23, and I have that in the notes below. So if you don't have to rewind the video to get that. It's in the notes below. But if you're in the market for a bag for yourself, or maybe a Christmas present to yourself or to a stitchy friend, be sure to check her out. She makes wonderful bags, and I really appreciate her support. Okay, there were some comments on the last video I want to talk about. One was about remember I showed you the women with their hairdos? Whoops, where are they? Oh, they're over here. See, it's backwards to me for some reason. Okay. The ladies, and I thought they looked like beehive hairdos in the wind. Well, here's an even better one. One of the viewers said, okay, look at these. Okay. How can you see it? See their dresses or costumes? She said that reminds her of the flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. And it does. It looks like the costume maker looked at this sampler and went, oh, that's what the flying monkeys should wear. I love that comment. I'll never be able to unsee that. I really appreciate that one. Okay, so that was the hairdos. And several of you mentioned that you appreciated discovering the Paisley Stitcher, and I'm glad you followed that recommendation. Grace is just a fantastic stitcher, and that her video number 8 is such a history lesson on samplers, specifically Saxony samplers. So if you have not yet done that, go check out Grace, the Paisley Stitcher. She has a wonderful channel. Okay, so my stitching. What have I done in the last 2 weeks? Here's my book of days. Squares are filled in. Not too many stickers, but squares are filled in. I've kept up marking. There was only one day when I had no stitching. So of course I have a frowny face on that day. So, okay, so what have I been stitching? So the first thing I have to show you is a finished object. Prairie Schooler Santa, 1991. Oh, that's kind of shadowy. He's like the fruit-bearing Santa, 1991. That's the most intricate Santa coat I've stitched so far. Isn't that pretty? That's 1991. It's very pretty. So I have now 4 more to do, and I'll have my Prairie Schooler Santas done. So that's 1991. The next thing, I'm sorry for this squeaky chair. The next thing is my whips. Maria Vincenza Larrichia was the next thing, and I was going to just call her Maria. It just came out, so mispronounced and all. So here's Maria, and you'll recall I have stitched this section. I've almost finished this section. I was hoping to finish it completely, but I still have some to do, and I wanted to move on to other projects, so I didn't just continue to get that section done because I don't think she's going to be done by her birthday on January 17th anyway. So next month she'll get another full 7 days because she is my focus piece, and as my viewers know, I always have a focus piece that is my oldest whip, and that is Maria this time, and I give it 7 days a month stitching, and it remains my focus piece until it's done. So she has a way to go. This was a big girl to stitch. Okay. Ooh. Let me show you here. I wish I had brought some boards down with me because this is very awkward. Okay, so here we are. And there are the ladies, whoops, with their beehive hairdos, or the flying monkeys, whichever way you want to look at it. Let me see how I can see. Okay, so you can see I have some letters here to finish, and then there's a line of flowers or something that goes. So I just have that little section there, and then I'll be on to, oops, the last section, which is approximately a third of the size, and it has some larger motifs, but still a ton of stitching. So that's Maria. She's my red sampler also. I always have a red sampler on the go, and I can tell you my next red sampler is going to be smaller. Okay, the next thing I stitched on again was Forget Me Not from Jacob, Modern Folk Embroidery. And again, I'm doing Katie Strachan's plan for finishing this on a box. I'm doing it as a memory for 6 generations in the maternal line in my family. So let me show you. I have finished the top piece. So it feels like a bit of a finish, but this is just the top piece. Oops, to go on the box. See, this is awkward. Okay. And I have filled in daughter's initials and 73. And those are in the gold accentuate. Now, when I started, I got to the point where I was going to do the letters. I didn't quite know what to do about it because Katie didn't have it in the tutorial. And she had called for accentuate, very sparkly, very much like Kreinik or DMC Diamante or Diamant, and a Swasserfine, what's this number? Swasserfine, no, that's 100 meters. Where's the number? I don't see the number. Oh, 2241, sorry. So she called for these 2 threads, but I could not figure out how I was supposed to use the 2 threads. Was it 2 threads together, stitched at the same time? Was part of it stitched in the yellow and then another part in the gold? And I couldn't tell from the pictures I could see. I couldn't tell what she had done. So I did a little experimenting. Sorry, let me move these out of the way. So they don't fall. They're going to still go on the floor. Both of them. There they went. Okay. So I went to my my poor miscut piece to do some experimenting. Now let me get this close enough so you can see. So Jacob includes the full alphabet for over 2 and for over 1. And you can see it's not a ton of difference in the size, so that wasn't the issue. The first thing I stitched here was one thread of the Swasserfine and 1 thread of the accentuate. And here I stitched 2 threads of the accentuate. And as I said, it's very much like Kreinik. It was very hard to do. It kept shedding little threads, you know, as it would go back up and down, it abrades against each other and some of the threads would break and I got a big nest on the back. So I went to the over 1. This one here is half stitch, what do you call it, tent stitch or continental stitch. And then I did 2 threads over 1, and that was a mess. That shredded even worse than this one did up here. So even though I like the nice solid look of it, I stopped very quickly because that was a mess on the back. And over here, I did a thread of the yellow Swasserfine and a thread of the accentuate, and that was not very satisfying. Plus you're doing 2 threads and you're going over 1. It was very hard. So my choice was just the accentuate with the continental stitch or tent stitch, half stitch. So that's what I did. And I'm very happy with the way it looks. even though it's half stitches, it doesn't look like it's half stitches. And I listened to Jean and Caroline on the Attic Two Tarts and Their Charts video, and they talked a lot about the continental stitch. So I'm happy I chose that just because of it helps that metallic kind of thread work better, to have one thread. And anyway, I'm very pleased with the way it looks. So the top of the box, the piece for the top of the box is finished. So it's a small finish. But then I had to move, and I had more time on this, so I moved on to the piece that is the front of the box, and it wraps around to the sides. So I started center front, and I marked my center, and I gave myself a straight line at the bottom so I don't get mixed up and go up or down a stitch or two. So that's my start on that. It's going to be much harder to find space for the initials on the front and sides. So I might have to eliminate some of the small stitching or choose something that's smaller, because the front of the box will be my mother, one of the sides will be my grandmother, and the other side will be my great and great great. And we don't have a lot of information on the great great, so I pretty much have her first initial and her married last initial, but I don't have a birth initial or a birth year even. I believe our family book has the death year, so I have, but that's not what I'm putting on the box. Anyway, so I have a start on the front and sides of the box. I'm feeling good that the top is done, especially after my disastrous start, and it's going to be fine. So those were my whips, and I had two new starts. The first new start, and I mentioned it last time, and I hadn't brought it over. It's called Dancer. It's by Barbara Anna, and this was published in the Christmas Winter 2021 Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. I love that face. Even though I said I don't need to do Christmas, I don't need to do more Christmas, I just love that face. I wanted to stitch it so badly. So I gave that a start. I think I spent 2 or 3 days on it. I got the face, I love that face. There it is. And I'm using the basalt, where's the tag? It's still on here, I think. No, it's not. It's in my book, and I didn't bring my book over. Again, something I didn't bring over. But I'll tell you next time what the fabric is. But it's what was called for. I just love this guy. Okay, so that's a start. The other start, I have to go back to my Prairie Spooler fabric here. There's 91. And this one is 1998. It's just the start of it. He has like a reindeer on the front of his coat. And so I just got to start on that yesterday. So that's 98. And I have 4 more to go. So this is one of the 4. And I think I'm going to power through and try to get them done by the end of the year. So that's what I think I'm going to do. Oh, here's the picture. This is what this guy looks like. This is the first one, and then these other 2. And then I have a separate one that's, I think it's 2020 is a separate one. Oops, and of course my computer went down. Okay. Those are my 2 new starts. And I had some haul. Always fun haul. I showed you last time GigiR, Lady in Red spinning her wool. So I showed you this, and I had the fabric also that I got from the attic. Fox and Rabbit, 36 count Mayflower. And I didn't order the threads at that time because I wanted to see what was recommended, how many are there, is it recommended with silk, and if it is, I wanted to cost it out. So I didn't order, and as it turns out, all of the thread recommendations are cottons. They are Gentle Art Sampler Thread, Gentle Art Simply Shaker, and it says Crescent Colors, but now that's Classic Colorworks. So with 2 different orders, I managed to get the colors. And except I'm not using Blackbird. I think it was Blackbird. Yeah, Blackbird. I'm just using DMC 310 for that. But I got all the other colors. So she is now kitted up. And I'll talk about that one again in a bit. So the threads were haul this time. And I was watching Flosstube, and I cannot remember who showed this, but she or they showed several little pillows that were just so sweet. And this one is a freebie from the Scarlet House. I went to the Scarlet House website and printed it off, and it's just so sweet. It has reindeer on it, but it's not overly Christmassy, and I just think it's a cute winter pattern. So I got that as a download, printed that off. Then the Wishing Thorne, Birgit had a 30% off special, so I went right on. I've been watching this one for a while. Elizabeth Hughes, Brenda of Brenda and the Sampler Starter has finished hers, and she finished it in flower thread. I wanted the flower thread, but a bunch of you got there before me and the flower thread was gone. So I didn't get the flower thread, but I did go out and get all the DMC. So here's the story with that. We have relatively close to us a Hobby Lobby, and then on the other side of town there's a Hobby Lobby that's relatively close to a Joann's. So the choice was, well, let's see, if we go to this Hobby Lobby that's close and they don't have everything, we have to drive to the other side of town to get the rest. Anyway, so let's just go there. And I say let's because Mr. Enabler drives around here. So we went there. I went to Joann's, and as I was afraid, they had all of the DMCs I needed except one. So we scooted over to the Hobby Lobby, which we go right past on our way back home, and got the DMC that I needed. So I had one skein of DMC. Well, you can't just check out one skein of DMC. So I had watched Loose Thread Stitchers, Leanne and Jeannie, and they showed on their channel this pin cushion that they had gotten at Hobby Lobby. They said last year, I think. But they thought it was still there, that they'd seen it. So I went to the sewing section, and sure enough, there it was. And I put all my pins on it that I made for Jingle Ball. Plus this is the counting pin I use. I love this one. Whoops. To me, it's easy to grab because of that head. Anyway, so I have a nice display for my pins, and I have a bunch more at home that I have made. And this will be nice to do a little stitchy attached around. I've seen so many people do that on spools, and I hadn't had a spool. Now I have a spool that'll hold my counting pins, and I'll have the opportunity to do a wrap around on this spool. So cool. Thanks, Jeannie and Leanne, for letting me know about that one. Okay, so that's the end of my whips, my FOs, my whips, my haul. So plans. It's late December, so it's time to be thinking about next year. I've loved hearing all of you talk about your 12 and 12 for New Year's Eve, and your 24 and 24, and laying out all your wonderful plans and things. And as I'm thinking ahead, I looked back at my 2023 book of days, and in the back I have a place where I had noted my whips coming in to the year. One of those extra pages I had put in. So I came in with 7 whips, and I counted my Prairie Schoolers. Where are they? Yeah, the Prairie Schooler Santas. I just counted that as one, and that's the only thing not yet finished that came in from last year. So those 4 Prairie Schooler Santas, if I get those done, I will have finished every whip that I brought in from 2022. That's my whips. Pretty happy with that. And finishes, there's another page I put in the back here. Finishes, I counted them up this morning, 23 so far. So if I finish the 4 more Prairie Schoolers, I will have 27 finishes. But I don't want to count my chickens here, so I'll see how many I get done. But that's a pretty good count for the year. As I recall, and I don't have my previous book of days here with me, it seems to me I had something like 40 for 2022, but many of them were ornaments because I did Bird Crush Club, but those were smaller, and I did some other ornaments, so there were some small ones in there too. But anyway, I think 23 is a pretty good number, and maybe I can bump it up to 27, I'll see. So that has been a good year. In my book, I say that has been a good year. So looking at my plans for next year, of course, my new book of days is in Kentucky, so I'll be doing this out, planning it out on paper. But in thinking ahead, I have, again, I'm looking at my notes, I have some things I need to work into my schedule. I will, of course, keep my focus piece, oldest whip, 7 days a month. I will always have a red sampler on the go, and if it's not already my focus piece, it'll be a red sampler. I'm going to start a smaller one. And there are some things I want to start. I want a New Year's Day start. I like doing that. I don't necessarily always do it, but it just seems to me New Year, new start, that sounds like fun. And some of you are doing it as a blessing sampler. I'm not doing that. Not superstitious. I feel no need to do that. And what I will choose is going to be rather large anyway. So I'll do a New Year's Day start. I have many patterns of small birds, like from Luminous Fiber Arts and from Heart and Hand and various other ones that are just waiting to get done, and I want to get them done and add them to the bird bowl I have. So I want to work those in, and I have, there are some small stitches in the red box. There are 12 of them in there. I would like to work some of those in. So maybe I'll alternate, 1 month do a small bird and 1 month do a small stitch from the red box. I'll see how I can work that in. You know, as you count your days, number of stitching days in a month, it can get pretty crowded. I also have a commitment to Fat Quarter Shop to do a stitch along starting in March, so I have to be able to fit that in. So I'm going to lay things out, plan it out, plot it out, count my days, see what kind of plan I can get going. I don't want to overwhelm myself, but I want to be challenged. And there were 2 things I really wanted to start as either a New Year's Day start and a birthday start. That's in February. Smith Sampler being one, and Anne, I cannot remember the last name. I flipped through my videos to see if I could find where I showed it, and I couldn't find it. But it was gifted to me by Lisa in the Central Kentucky Stitchers, and I was fascinated by it because not only is it gorgeous, but it has specialty stitches and reversible. So I had wanted to do that as my New Year's Day start, but that's in Kentucky, so that's not going to happen as a New Year's Day start, but I do want to start it because I want to do some specialty stitches. So where was I going with that? I fell down that little rabbit hole. Oh, I do know. Okay. So I have 2 things here that I can do as New Year's Day start and or birthday start. So one, of course, is Elizabeth Hughes. I have just today ordered the fabric. It's this model was stitched on 32 count tin roof using Ginny Thompson flower thread. But I think I'm going to do in fact I am because I've ordered it, 36 count tin roof, and I'll do 1 strand of DMC. So that will either be my New Year's Day start or my birthday start. And the other that I have here that's ready to go now is the lady in red spinning her wool. So one of them will be New Year's Day, the other will be birthday, unless I'm back in Kentucky before birthday. And then I could pick up Smith Sampler or that other one, and I can't remember her last name. So that's my work in the last 2 weeks, and that's a little bit of looking ahead. I will have to hammer out the final details. I don't know if I said this. I just so enjoy hearing everybody's plans for the coming year. It's fun to listen to, even if it's not the way I would do it. I love hearing what you're doing and what you're getting done. I love hearing about people's WIPCO challenge and finishing it up and making plans for next year, even though that's not what I do. My system works for me, but I love seeing what everyone is doing. So continue sharing those. Always happy to hear that, and I will be especially interested to hear about the 12 by 12. That sounds like a tremendous challenge, from 12 noon to 12 midnight, doing 12 things, whether it's whips or new starts. Either way, it's that's a tremendous challenge. So I'll be anxious to hear how those turned out for people. So as we finish this year and go into the new year, those of you who are stitching at midnight or starting at midnight, however you're doing it, I'll be sleeping. I discovered a long time ago, New Year's comes whether I'm awake to see it come in or not. So that's what I just go to bed. So I will be filming my next Flosstube on January 5th, and I will be into my New Year plan, so you can see what I decided to start on New Year's Day and what I'm doing moving forward. So happy stitching, everyone. Enjoy whatever holidays you celebrate, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.